Should you or should you not train your neck and traps? Well, there's quite a few arguments for and against it, so I'm going to cover all of it and give you a very simple answer to help you decide. Firstly, arguments for training your neck and traps is that it's going to give you a more masculine look, right? Because if you train your neck particularly, it's going to be really obvious, and together they're going to make you look way more masculine. Also, in terms of this is specific for neck training, neck is the only muscle that can actually affect how your face look, because if you have a wider neck, it can actually affect how your jaw looks. And again, it's going to make you look more masculine, but it's also going to make your jaw look better as well. And also, if you train your neck and traps, it's going to actually help you look like you lift. Um, should be pretty self-explanatory because those are on the outer extremities of your body that are visible when you wear a t-shirt. Now, what are some arguments against training neck and traps? Firstly, some argue that it can make you look like a gym cell. Again, this is mainly for the traps, where people talk about having huge traps makes you look like a gym cell. Also, this is again an argument for the traps, is that against the traps, I should say, having large traps could actually make your clavicles appear shorter, especially if you already have relatively narrow clavicles. And lastly, this is just saying that it might look bad on certain people, right? Sometimes some people, especially when they go overboard, when they train their neck and traps, they can look kind of weird and disproportional. So answer to should you or should you not train your neck and traps is actually pretty simple. Really, it just depends on the length of your neck, like this, and the length of your clavicle, and then developing your neck and traps in proportion to the proportions of your body structure. So this might sound a bit weird, and I probably didn't explain it that well, but it's really as simple as this. If you have a long neck, then train your traps more and train your neck less. So these two are examples of having a long neck. On the right side, we have Cason Granger, and you can see when you have a long neck, right, training your traps is what you should be doing, because when you have larger traps, if I can just draw that here, it's going to create the illusion of a shorter neck, and it's going to make you look more proportional because it makes your long neck look shorter. On the other hand, if you have a long neck, you should be training your neck less, because if you have a really long neck like this guy, but then you also train it a lot, it's going to look disproportionately big. It's going to look a bit freakish. So you can see he has a long neck, but then he trains it, and now it just kind of looks like a chode. So instead of what he should be doing is stop training his neck and kind of let his neck atrophy, if he wants the best proportions, that is, because he is a pro bodybuilder, and kind of let it atrophy to look the best in terms of appeal. Now, in terms of Cason Granger, he should be training his traps more, and his neck right now is probably at a pretty good size. I think he does train his neck as well. But generally, when you have a long neck, train more traps and train less neck. And the opposite is true for having a short neck. If you have a short neck, then you can afford to have a thicker neck, because if you have a short and thick neck, like Mike Tyson over here, you're not going to have that chode effect like this guy. On the other hand, if you have a short neck, then you should actually train your traps less, because if you have a short neck already, and if you train your traps a bunch, it can basically create a neckless look where you look like you don't have a neck. So really, it's about the length of your neck, right? Again, long neck, train more traps, train less neck. Short neck, train more neck, and train less traps. And also, the clavicle comes into play as well, right? Like we talked about earlier, how if you already have short clavicles, training more traps can actually make your clavicles appear shorter. So in general, if you have wide clavicles, then you can afford to get really big traps. However, if you have narrow clavicles, then you have to be careful not to develop your traps too much, because it might make you look more narrow. But again, this idea of having too much upper traps, it's kind of like the middle-aged woman saying that she doesn't want to get too bulky. Like, you'll know when you're at the sweet spot, and if you overshoot a bit, you can just stop training and let it atrophy naturally. And you can see at this point, Cason, right, his ideal trap development will probably be around this size, right? If he goes too much, then that might actually mess up his proportions as well, because again, this is all about proportions. And by the way, in the link in the description, I have my private Black Pill Fitness Discord server if you're interested in high IQ discussions as well. And also, to close off, I have some notes on trap training because for most people, when they train traps, that's a terrible drawing. They, fuck. They train traps. We're used to doing shrugs like this, right? You have a dumbbell here, and then you just shrug upwards like this. However, when it comes to training your traps, right, if you follow modern science-based training stuff, it's actually better to do your shrugs at more of a incline like this. So then you have the shrugs up here, and basically you're just getting more scapular retraction. So you can do it at incline bench, or you can just do it on a chest supported row and just do a proper Kelso shrug as well. So that's some notes on trap training. And you also have to consider your phenotype, right? If you're going for like the ogre type of look, then yeah, go ahead, train as much neck and traps as you want. But if you are looking for more of the pretty boy type look, then not so much, right? You shouldn't be training either of them as much. You should still train them, but again, it's all about proportions as well. So best way to know is to just look in the mirror, really. But yeah, that's it.